The alarm never sounded. The cameras kept rolling, and by the time anyone noticed, France's most guarded treasures had vanished into the Paris dawn. It was 5:43 a.m. on October 19, 2025, when a white utility van stopped quietly beside the Louvre Museum. To the sleepy guards watching from their booth, it looked like a maintenance crew. Just another early team getting the world's most famous museum ready for another day of tourists. 4 men stepped out, faces half hidden under helmets, yellow vests glinting under the dim streetlight. They moved with calm precision, as if rehearsed. Inside the van, their watches were synchronized. Every second mattered. They had 7 minutes. No guns, no threats, no noise. Just speed, silence, and perfect timing. The kind of job that would be remembered not for its chaos, but for its elegance. At 5:46 a.m., the first 2 men walked toward the side service entrance, pushing a cart loaded with cleaning supplies. One of them tapped an access card against the control pad. It beeped green. The cards were real, stolen months earlier from a subcontractor working on the Louvre renovations. Cameras caught nothing suspicious. The Louvre was used to early visitors, technicians, restorers, cleaners, and that morning, the thieves looked exactly like them. Down the narrow service corridors, they moved fast. The man at the rear switched on a signal jammer. For 3 seconds, the surveillance feed flickered to static, camera number 47, just long enough to let him disappear. Behind another locked door, a sign read, Galerie d'Apollon. Inside were some of France's most precious royal jewels, the crown of Louis XVIII, Empress Eugenie's tiara, and several necklaces once worn by the queens of France. At 5:49 a.m., the EMP device hummed softly. Alarms in the gallery went silent. One thief cracked the vitrine with a single controlled blow, using a diamond-tipped cutter. Another slipped gloved hands into the case, lifting the emerald-studded Eugenie tiara, worth over 4 million euros. In less than 5 minutes, 8 priceless artifacts vanished into their black duffel bags. The thieves never spoke a word. At 5:54 a.m., they were gone. The van rolled back into the morning mist, heading toward Pont Neuf. Paris was still asleep. At 6:11 a.m., a museum technician noticed the shattered glass. 2 minutes later, the internal alarm triggered, not from motion, but from unusual light reflections inside the gallery. By the time the police arrived, the thieves were long gone. Chief Inspector Luc Desforges of the Paris Anti-Banditry Brigade arrived at dawn. Standing beneath the broken display, he said quietly, they knew exactly what to take, how to take it, and when to take it. This wasn't luck, this was choreography. Detectives found no fingerprints, no footprints, no DNA. The floors had been sprayed with a fine anti-forensic mist, an advanced trick only known in high-end European crime rings. Even the display glass showed no fingerprints. The thieves had worn custom rubber gloves coated with graphite powder to resist trace detection. The investigation uncovered one critical clue, the access cards. They matched badges from a real maintenance company that had worked in the museum over the summer. Someone inside had duplicated them. 2 weeks before the heist, a small alarm had forced the Galerie d'Apollon to close early for one evening. Investigators now believe that was a test run. During those hours, the thieves mapped out camera angles, shift changes, and the best escape route. Every movement on the day of the heist mirrored those earlier patterns perfectly. Interpol was soon involved. Some believe the operation was linked to the Pink Panthers, a Balkan jewel theft network responsible for dozens of museum robberies across Europe. Others suspected a new French-Algerian syndicate specializing in art smuggling. But there were no ransoms, no messages, no whispers on the black market. The jewels had simply vanished. When the news broke, France was shaken. The Louvre, more than a museum, a national symbol, had been violated. President Macron called the heist an assault on the cultural soul of France. Crowds gathered outside the museum gates, leaving flowers and handwritten notes. Bring them home. The Louvre closed for 3 days. Internal reviews revealed that several security systems were over a decade old, vulnerable to signal jamming and outdated software. The museum had relied too heavily on its reputation as an untouchable fortress. Then came the first break. 3 weeks later, a CCTV camera near La Défense caught a faint reflection, a helmet identical to one used by a logistics contractor. Police traced it to an abandoned warehouse north of Paris. Inside were tools, uniforms, and a fragment of the Louvre's shattered display glass. DNA from a cigarette butt matched Sandro Milanovic, a Serbian national linked to a 2013 Cartier robbery in Brussels. But he was gone. Interpol believes he fled to Eastern Europe within hours of the Louvre heist. Soon after, an emerald brooch appeared in a Geneva pawn shop, crudely altered and stripped of its markings. Experts confirmed it was one of the missing pieces. It had been hacked apart with a jeweler's saw, likely to separate its precious stones for resale. The rest of the collection, worth over 25 million euros, has never been found. Louvre director Marie Fontaine faced the press a week later. Her voice trembled as she promised a complete overhaul of the museum's security: motion lasers, biometric locks, AI-powered surveillance. She said, "We will not lose history again." But the emotional damage was already done. For curators and historians, it wasn't just about money. The stolen jewels were physical links to France's royal past, objects that had survived revolutions, wars, and centuries of human history. Their loss cut deep. You can replace glass and gold, but you cannot replace the stories those objects carried. Once they vanish, part of us vanishes with them, said curator Hélène Roche in an interview on France 24. Months later, the Louvre heist remains unsolved. No arrests, no confessions, no trace of the missing jewels. Investigators quietly suspect that someone inside the museum helped. Someone who knew every hallway, every blind spot, every shift change. Whoever they were, they didn't just steal jewelry. They stole a piece of France's identity. The heist wasn't loud. It wasn't bloody. It was silent, flawless, and devastating. And somewhere, in a private vault, were scattered across secret collections, the jewels of France still shimmer in the dark, waiting for a truth that may never come to light.